I'm Gary Boteo with Parks and Recreations of San Antonio, and I'd like to kind of review what we did for those that might have missed the first show, and for those who saw it, it wouldn't hurt to go over it anyway. What we did in the first show is we learned the correct position, first of all, to hold the guitar, and I said the legs should be slightly shoulder width apart, and the guitar should rest on the left leg like this at a 45-degree angle. All right, that was for the men. And for the ladies, I had an alternate position. If you don't like this one, if you don't feel comfortable in it, you can cross the leg like this and hold the guitar on that same leg, and it about amounts to the same thing. Okay? Also, we learned where to position the left-hand thumb. The thumb should always be positioned in the middle of the neck and pointed straight up. When you hold the guitar in the position to be played, the thumb should be pointed straight up towards the ceiling. Okay? The fingers should always press down right before the frets and with the very tips of the fingers, like this. And there should be a big space between those fingers. They should not be touching like this. And that's the position for the fingers of the left hand. And they should press down always right behind the frets, not in between them, not on top of them. And we learned the finger exercise, which I'd like to kind of go over real quick here. We started with the first finger, first fret, and we pressed down, playing that note, and then holding that finger down, stretching it out. We played the second finger to second fret, all on the first string, and then we added the third finger, third fret, and then finally the fourth finger, fourth fret. And we did the same thing on every string. We did on the first, second, third, fourth, fifth, and sixth strings, okay? Now, notice that all the fingers are up with the tips. There's a big space between each finger, and the thumb is in the middle and pointed straight up. And by this time, after a week or so of practice, you should begin to feel a little bit more comfortable in this position. Also, going to the blackboard here, we learned two chords. And I defined chords in the last program as pressing down on several different strings with several different fingers and playing those strings together, as opposed to playing one string, one finger at a time. You're going to hit several strings together, and that's what a chord is. And we explained that there are many different types of chords: major chords, minor chords, all different types of chords. And the first group that we're going to be studying are called the major chords. You can kind of think of it as a last name, just like people have a first and a last name. Well, the chords have a first and a last name. The last name of the chords is major. The first name will have a letter name, like C, D, and so on. And the way we're learning this is we're going to start with C major and learn them just like the alphabet, so it's easy to remember their names. C, D, E, F, G, except after G comes A and then B. And that's the order that we're going to learn them in. We also learned how to read these chord diagrams. These are called chord diagrams. We're drawing pictures of the chords, and we started by showing you how to draw a chord diagram. These 6 lines going down like this are your strings, just as kind of a review here. We connect them at the top, put the head on the guitar, we draw in our frets like this, and then we put our fret numbers out here. Our fret numbers out here, okay? Telling you that this is the first fret, that's the third fret. We usually skip a fret between them. And then when you read this, this is the first string over here, the second string, third, fourth, fifth, and sixth, like that, okay? And just as a slight review also, the first string, when you hold the guitar up in the position to be played, the first string is the bottom string, okay? And just hold it down here, all right? The first string is the bottom string, so we count from the bottom up. First, second, third, fourth, fifth, and sixth string, okay? And that's a chord diagram. And then we use the dots to represent where we want to put the fingers, and we always put the dots right where the string meets the fret, so there's no confusion as to where to put the finger. And then we write numbers above those dots. Those numbers represent what finger on the left hand that we're going to use to press down on that particular string. In the case of this chord here, C major, the first finger is going to be on what string?
Second.
Second. At what fret?
First.
Okay. The second finger is going to be on what string?
Fourth.
Fourth. At what fret?
Second.
Right. And the third finger is going to be on what string?
Fifth.
Fifth. At what fret?
Third.
Okay. And we press down with the very tips of the fingers, the thumb in the middle, just like that position that we learned in the finger exercise. Okay. We press down and we play the first 5 strings together. Now, another thing that I didn't mention on the last show that I'd like to mention now is the use of these X's. These X's mean do not hit that string, okay? Do not hit that string. So on the C major chord, you should not hit the 6th string. It's going to sound kind of funny if you do. So make sure you don't hit that string, okay? So let's press down on strings 2, 4, and 5, right? And let's play that C major, okay? Now, as I said last time, it's very important to keep the fingers up with the tips, okay? Keep the fingers up with the tips, because if you lean them just slightly, no matter how hard you press, you're going to get a thud. That finger is going to touch the string below it, and you're going to get a thud. So if you're getting thuds out of some of the strings, look and check and see if the fingers are up with the tips, because if you're leaning them even slightly, they're going to touch the string below it, and no matter how hard you press, you're not going to get a sound. So make sure all the fingers are up with the tips right before the frets, okay? I know I keep saying that, but I can't say it enough, because it's the hardest thing to do in the beginning is to keep those fingers in that position because they're so weak. So if you're having trouble with this, make sure that you just keep going over it and get those fingers up in the position like we have here. All up with the tips right before the frets, and eventually, once those fingers stretch out and strengthen up, you'll get that good clear sound that we're trying to do here. Okay, so that's our C major chord. We put our fingers on strings 2, 4, and 5 in frets 1, 2, and 3, okay? And that's C major. Now, we also learned in our last show D major, and D major is played as follows here. We're going to play the first finger on string 3 on fret 2, so put that finger down there, all right? The second finger is going to go on string 1 at fret 2 also. Both of them are in the same fret, so make sure they both go behind that fret, okay? Don't put them on top of the fret or right in front of the fret. Keep it behind the fret here, all right? Both those fingers go in the 2nd fret, and then the 3rd finger goes in the 3rd fret, okay? And again, we press down and we play the first 5 strings. The 6th string is not hit, okay? We put a little X above that string, meaning do not hit that string, okay? Because if you do, it's not going to sound very good, okay? So let's hear it, okay? Watch also for that first string, because sometimes in the beginning, people have a tendency to lean this finger, and that first string has a thud. That's usually the worst part of the D chord, is getting that first string to sound, okay? So make sure you check and see each individual string. As well as hitting all the strings together, hit each string individually like this, right? And make sure you're getting a sound. Now, I want you to just lift up slightly like this, okay? Get a thud. I want a thud, thud, like that. If you're getting a thud, you see, you know one of two things. Either you're not pressing down hard enough, or the finger is not up with the tip, okay? So make sure you press those fingers down good and hard, because you want a good clear sound out of each chord, no thuds, all right? So that's the D major. We press down on string 3, string 1, and string 2 here in frets 2 and 3, and then we play the first 5 strings together, okay? And also, while you're practicing this, just to see about the clarity of the chord, go down each individual string and make sure that there are no thuds, buzzes, and all the rest of that stuff that destroy the beauty of the chord, okay? So that's D major. Now, let me erase this here. Now we're going to learn what? What comes after D? E. I don't know where you guys are educated, but you sure are smart, all right? That's E major. Okay. And drawing our chord diagram here, drawing in the fret numbers, don't forget those fret numbers, right? We're going to now learn E major. E major is played like this. The first finger goes on what string? 3rd. 3rd, right? At the 1st fret. Okay, so put the first finger there. Now remember to keep that thumb in the middle pointed straight up. Check that thumb. Don't move it when you switch from chord to chord. Keep the thumb there. Then the 2nd finger goes where? 5th string on what fret? 2nd fret, so put it there. And then the 3rd finger goes where? 4th string, 2nd fret, right? Now notice these are both in the same fret, so you have to kind of make room for them. Don't try to get them both like this. Keep this one a little bit behind the third finger, right? Because you have to make room for them in that second fret, otherwise they're not going to fit there. Okay, so E major, we start on the third string here, use the first finger, first fret, right? And then the second finger goes on the fifth, and the third finger goes on the fourth string. Both of those are going to be in the second fret. So E major's on string 3, string 5, and string 4. Okay, now let's press down. On this one, you want to hit all the strings. Okay, this one, you can hit all the strings. Sound good. All right, hit it. All right, again, make sure the fingers are all up with the tips. Make sure they're right before the respective frets. Make enough room to fit these two fingers in that second fret. And make sure you're getting a good clear sound out of each string, right? Individual string. If you're getting a thud or a buzz, do something, change something. Look and see if the fingers are up with the tips. Check and see if you're pressing down hard enough, okay? Because those are the two major problems in the beginning, is pressing down hard enough and getting those fingers up with the tips. All right? So this is our E major chord. And E major is played on strings 3, 5, and 4. Okay? Now, after E comes what? F. Now we come to a real problem here. F major is going to be one of the hardest chords that you're going to play for quite some time. And the reason that it's hard is it's because we have to learn a new technique. And that technique is called the bar. Now, some teachers don't teach this until the student has been playing for a year or more, but I like to get it over with at the beginning because to me it's just as hard to learn it from day one as it is a year from now. Okay? So the bar. Now it's spelled kind of funny here, B-A-R-R-E, but it's pronounced bar, just like B-A-R. Okay? Now the bar is a very difficult technique to attain. It's going to take you months and months of practice, not weeks. A lot of people come back after 1 week and say, oh, I just can't do it. I can't play this bar. I can't play F. It's impossible. Well, I don't want to hear that, okay, because it's not going to happen in 1 week. It's going to take several months to get a good, clear sound and to feel comfortable with this chord. So don't get excited if you're having trouble with this one because it's going to take a lot of practice. Now let me tell you about this technique of the bar and show you the correct way to bar. First of all, what does it mean? Okay, to bar means this. It means to press down on a series of strings with one finger. Just one finger is going to press down on several different strings like this, okay? Now, in the case of F, we're going to do what we call the full bar. We're going to put that first finger, lay it down across all 6 strings, okay? Now, before you try it, I want you to look at my finger because there's only one correct way to bar, and that's to keep the finger perfectly flat and straight, like I have it here. In other words, we don't want the finger crooked like this. We don't want it like that. We do not want to play with this portion of the finger, that portion of the finger. We want the very bottom portion of the finger to press down on all 6 of those strings because we have to make like a clamp between the thumb and the first finger here so that when we press down, we get a good clear sound out of all 6 strings, okay? Now, that is the technique of the bar. So to play F, we need to have a new symbol now in our chord diagram to show what the bar looks like, okay? And what we do is we use the curved line over the particular fret that we want to bar at, and then we put the number of the finger. Sometimes you don't bar with the first finger, so you put the number of the finger that we're going to use to bar, okay? And in this case, we're going to use the first finger, and we're going to bar at the first fret. So let's try that. Everybody at home also, let's try that. Let's see if we can get that finger flat and straight. Those are the 2 key words here, right? We want to keep that finger perfectly flat and straight. Everybody get the fingers flat and straight, and only go to the edge of the guitar. You don't want your finger sticking out like this. All right? A lot of people in the beginning stick the finger way out there. You want it only to the edge of the neck. So keep that finger positioned just like that, okay? And keep it flat and straight. Now, unfortunately, this is not all that we have to do to play the F chord. That's only the first thing we have to do. We have to bar at the first fret. Bar at the first fret, okay? So keeping that finger flat and straight, let's diagram the rest of the chord here. we're going to put finger 2 on string 3, right, at the 2nd fret, on string 3 at the 2nd fret, and then we're going to put finger 3 on string 5 at the 3rd fret, and finger 4 is going to go on the 4th string at the 3rd fret. Now both of those are in the 3rd fret, so make room for them, right? Don't try to get them right next to the fret, both of them. Put this one a little bit behind the 4th finger, okay? Now I'm going to go over here to my demonstrator models here, and we're going to see exactly what the chord should look like when you play it, okay? Notice how the finger, the bar here, is flat and straight. Flat and straight, and notice how all the fingers are up with the tips, okay? They're not collapsed and they're not on an angle like this, right? Not on an angle like that. All of them are up with the tips, okay? Which is exactly what we want. And when you add the fingers, the tendency of the bar is to go like this, right? It's to go like that to prevent the stretch, right? Your hand is saying, wait a minute, you know, I don't want to do this. So what it's going to do, it's going to move to feel comfortable. So make sure that when you bar, you keep that finger flat and straight, and when you add the fingers, do not move it, okay? Because that's what happens, especially in the beginning. That finger has a tendency to move over rather than to make the finger stretch out, okay? So keep that finger flat and straight. Put that pressure down, equal pressure, all the way down that 1st finger, okay? And let's see what we got here. Press down. Play it. Now they sound so good, but I'm sure at home you're going to sound something similar to this, right? It's going to sound, right? Because your hand is not strong enough to press down to get that good, clear sound out of the F chord. Don't let that discourage you. I want to remind you what I said a few minutes ago, that it's going to take several months, maybe even a year, to get a very good, clear sound out of this chord, okay? So don't get discouraged. Keep working and working and working, and one of these days, all of a sudden, you're going to wake up and you're going to amaze yourself. It's going to sound good, all right? So don't get discouraged on this one. So as a review, the F, we have to bar at the 1st fret, and how should that bar look? How should it look?
Flat.
Flat and what?
Straight.
Flat and straight, right? It should not be crooked. And then when we add the fingers, we should not move it, right? Once we get that bar in position, do not move the bar when we add the other fingers on strings 3, 5, and 4, okay? Now remember, these numbers above here tell you what finger to use to press down on that particular string. So the F chord is going to be hard, all right? Don't expect it to happen in a week or two. It's going to take a lot of practice. But the bar is a very important technique, and you can only play the most basic songs without learning it. So that's why we're going to do it from the beginning here, okay? So F, we bar at the 1st fret, play 3, 5, 4 in the 2nd and 3rd frets, okay? Then comes another one. After F comes G. And this one also is going to feel kind of funny. We don't bar, yet you're going to have another problem here of, as soon as you try it, you're going to see what I mean. G major is going to be played like this. Now, that's a 4 there on the 1st string. The 2nd finger is going to play on the 5th string at the 2nd fret, okay? The 2nd finger is going to play on the 5th string at the 2nd fret. The 3rd finger is going to play on the 6th string at the 3rd fret, right? So far, so good. Now comes the problem. The 4th finger has to get curled enough to play on that 1st string, also at the 3rd fret, okay? Now that's the problem. A lot of times this third finger will start to pop right off that string until you get used to this position. This chord, though, is not half as difficult as the F chord. After a couple of weeks, you should be able to be pretty comfortable with this one. But it does pose a problem when you first try it, because we're starting with that 2nd finger. So we put the 2nd finger on the 5th string at the 2nd fret, this one here on the 6th string at the 3rd fret, and the 4th finger goes on the 1st string at the 3rd fret. Okay, and we're going to press down, and let's hear this one. Very good. Remember, keep the thumbs in the middle. Check those thumbs, especially at home. Check those thumbs, see if they're in the middle of the neck and pointed straight up. and check the fingers, make sure they're up with the tips, and check each individual string and see if we're getting a sound. A good clear sound of each string. And if you're not, excuse me, check it. See what's wrong, right? See if the fingers are up with the tips. See if they're pressing down hard enough, okay? So that's our G major. You put it on string 5, string 6, and string 1, okay? Now, after G comes A major. Remember, draw your 6 strings when you're drawing your chord diagram. Check them connect them at the top here, and then draw your frets in. Put your fret numbers out here. Now, after G comes our A major. Now, A major is going to be a relatively simple chord, because it requires us to do the following. You're going to put your first finger. Notice, first of all, that they're all in the 2nd fret. Every single one of them is going to be in the 2nd fret. Okay? So, first finger goes in the 2nd fret. The 2nd finger goes on the 3rd string in the 2nd fret, and the 3rd finger goes on the 2nd string, also on the 2nd fret. Now, I want you to see this one because you're probably going to say, well, how am I going to fit all those fingers in that one fret? Well, you have to do it on a diagonal, just like this. You see? This finger has to start a little bit above the next one, and they all follow down in a diagonal line. Okay? Otherwise, you're not going to be able to fit all the fingers in that one fret. Now, keep that thumb in the middle, pointed straight up. Keep those fingers up with the tips, and let's press down, and let's hear what we got here for A major. A major. Very good. Okay. Now, again, at home, if you're getting those thuds, that's perfectly normal. In the beginning, you have to really practice at keeping those fingers up with the tips and pressing down. Okay, we have one more here. I'm going to erase my bar. We have B7. After A comes B7. Now, you say, what's this? B7. What happened to B major? Okay, B major is a very difficult chord to play. So we're not going to learn B major here in the beginning. We're going to learn B7. And you're probably going to use B7 before you ever use B major anyway. So, this is how to play B7. Now, this 7th is from a different family of chords. So when you say the name of this one, you have to say B7. Do not say B major, because all these other chords, C, D, E, F, G, and A, they're the major chords. But B7th is from another family of chords called the 7th chords. All right? So when you say the name, say B7. Don't just say B or B major. It's not B major, it's B7. So don't forget to put that in when you say the name on this one. Okay, and I forgot my fret numbers here. Okay, we start with the first finger on what string?
4th.
4th string and what fret?
1st.
1st fret, okay? So put that one down. Then the 2nd finger goes on what string?
5th.
5th at what fret?
2nd.
2nd fret, right? Then the 3rd finger goes?
3rd.
3rd string, 2nd fret, right? And the 4th finger goes where?
1st string, 2nd fret.
1st string, 2nd fret, right? 1st string, 2nd fret. Okay, so we have our B7th chord now. B7th chord. Now on this one, let's take a look at it here a little closer. On this one, we see that we can get those fingers all in the 2nd fret, pretty close to that fret. We don't have to put them in on a diagonal or anything because of the position that our hand is in for this one. So try to get those fingers as close to the fret as possible. All right, let's press down on this one. And again, do not hit that 6th string, okay? On the B7th, put an X over that string, meaning don't hit it, okay? Because it's going to sound real funny if you do. So hit that from the 5th string on down. Play it. Okay, play it. Again, any thuds, any buzzes, what's the 2 causes of that?
Bad fingering.
Touching another string, but why? Because you're leaning the finger and touching it, right? You're not keeping the finger up with the tips. So if you're getting a thud, that could be one of the reasons. What's the other reason?
Fingers too far back from the fret.
Well, yeah, but also you're not pressing hard enough. Okay, you're not pressing hard enough. That's the 2 major reasons in the beginning. Okay, so this brings us now to a little review here. We have C major, and how do we play C major? String 2, string 4, string 5, frets 1, 2, and 3, so let's play that. Hit it. C major, all right, it's played like that. D major, moving on to D major, we have it on string 3, string 1, string 2, and frets 2 and 3, so press down, let's hear that one. Again, remember not to hit the 6th string on the D major. If you do, it's going to sound real funny. All right, then after D comes E major, and E major is played on string 3, string 5, and string 4, and frets 1 and 2, okay? Frets 1 and 2. So hit that chord now. Now this one, you can hit all the strings. In fact, you want to hit all the strings on this one. And moving on, we have F major. F major. In the F major, again, we have the technique of the bar, okay? The bar, which is spelled kind of funny like that, but it's pronounced just bar. And the bar should be how? How should it look?
Flat and straight.
Flat and straight, okay? Flat and straight. We're going to bar at the 1st fret, and then we're going to put our fingers on strings 3, 5, and 4, and frets 2 and 3, okay? And frets 2 and 3. And we're going to press down and play that chord. Again, you should not get a clear sound. It's going to sound real thuddy in the beginning, but it's going to take several months to get a good clear sound. So don't get discouraged on this one. Don't give up. It's going to happen. But just remember, keep that finger flat and straight. Begin to put that pressure down so we strengthen those fingers up in the left hand. It takes a lot of pressure to get a good clear sound out of this one. So don't get discouraged. After a few months, you'll begin to get that hand stronger and you'll get a sound. Then, after F, comes G. And G major is played like so. On string 5, string 6, and string 1 in frets 2 and 3. Now notice here we start with the 2nd finger. We don't use the 1st finger. So keep that finger up in the air. Don't let it touch the strings or anything. It'll deaden them if you do. And we hit all the strings on this one also. All right? That's G major. Again, this one's going to feel very funny when you play it. G major, when you first try it, it's going to have kind of a weird feel to it. But after a couple of weeks of practice, this one should begin to feel pretty comfortable. All right? It's a lot easier than the F chord, but it is going to be one of the harder ones out of the ones that we're learning here. Okay, and then A major is played like this. On string 4, string 3, and string 2, all of them in the 2nd fret. Make sure that you put them in diagonally so that all the fingers fit in that 2nd fret. Okay, put them in diagonally like they have it there, and press down. And on this one, you can hit all the strings. All right, fit on the A major. All right, so that's an easy one. Then we come to our B7th. We come to our B7th, which is 4, 5, 3, and 1, like that, in frets 1 and 2. Okay, so this is what you practice for this week. Learn these chords, try to memorize them. Remember, if you live in the San Antonio area here, that these lessons are sponsored by the Parks and Recreation. They're free of charge. The number to call is 299-3133 for information about times and places. Thanks a lot, and we'll have 2 more programs in this series coming up. We'll put some of these chords to use and learn a song in the next one.
To